Yo soy alta, morena y amable. ¿Y tú? ¿Cómo eres? ¿Cómo son tus amigos? ¿Son interesantes? Look at these two questions. ¿Cómo eres? ¿Cómo estás? How are these two questions different? Well, ser points out at characteristic, while estar points out a condition. What are you like versus how are you doing? And that's what we're going to talk about in this lesson. We are going to focus on the differences between ser and estar. But first, let's focus on the verb ser. I hope you remember the verb ser, but we'll start by reviewing it just in case. Here it is. Yo soy, tú eres, usted, él, ella es, nosotros somos, vosotros sois, ustedes, ellos son. Now, when ser is followed by an adjective, the adjective must agree with the noun it modifies in number and gender. The adjectives that we use with ser describe basic traits and inherent characteristics like size, shape, color, or personality. For example, we could say, Carolina es simpática y bonita. Or, los lápices son amarillos. Now, on page 20, we have a table with adjectives, and it's going to be good for you to go over those adjectives because we're going to be using those with ser. So, let's look at the table. We have amable, and then we have the opposite of amable, maleducado. We have chistoso or gracioso, and the opposite of that is serio. Fiel, and the opposite, infiel. Generoso, and the opposite is tacaño. Honesto, and the opposite, deshonesto or mentiroso. Leal, and the opposite, desleal. Paciente, and the opposite, impaciente. Delgado, and the opposite, gordo. Guapo or bonita, and the opposite is feo or fea. And then moreno or rubio. And as you probably noticed, I was giving you just the masculine. And there's some here you can see on your book that don't have an A, and that is because we're going to use the same adjective whether the noun is feminine or masculine. Now, when ser is followed by the preposition de plus a noun, it may be used to indicate substance, so the material that something is made out of, origin, where somebody is from, or possession, what somebody owns, so it indicates ownership. For example, if I say, ¿de qué es el anillo? The answer would be, es de oro, for example. Or if I say, ¿de dónde es Ana? I would say, es de España. Or, ¿de quién es el libro? Es de la señora Coolwind. Now, the verb ser is also used to indicate nationality, profession, religion, or political affiliation. For example, Ramón es puertorriqueño. And there we have his nationality. Alberto es dentista. Now, something important to remember is that when we have the verb ser with a profession, like the example I just showed you, we are not going to have an article unless the noun is being modified by an adjective. And we know that most of the time in Spanish, adjectives will follow the noun. So, for example, we could say, Alberto es un dentista famoso. And notice that there is an article there because we have an adjective. Okay, now let's keep on going with our examples here. Patricia es bautista y Juan es demócrata. Now, did you notice the endings of most of these nouns? We have dentista, bautista, demócrata. All of these nouns end in an A despite the gender of the subject. Why? Well, words ending in ista or ocrata have the same form for both masculine or feminine. Now, let's review some adjectives for nationalities since we'll be using them with the verb ser, and you might not be familiar with some of them. So here we have some. For Mexico, we're going to say mexicano, Venezuela, venezolano, Guatemala, guatemalteco, and you see here an A for those adjectives that will change in the feminine form. Cuba, cubano, España, español, República Dominicana, dominicano, Chile, chileno, Estados Unidos, estadounidense, Canadá, canadiense, China, chino. And as you can see here, the adjectives are not going to be capitalized. So we have seen that we are going to use ser for basic traits and inherent characteristics. We are also going to use ser to describe what something is made of, where somebody is from, to indicate ownership, to indicate nationality, profession, religion, and political affiliation. So if I asked you, ¿de dónde eres? What would you say? ¿De dónde eres? I would say, yo soy de Venezuela. Or if I asked you, ¿de quién son las llaves? ¿De quién son las llaves? I hope you said, las llaves son de la señora Coolwind. Now, let's practice some by working on Actividad 5 on page 20. Actividad 5 on page 20. And the instructions say, replace the words in italics with the words in parentheses. Be sure to make any other necessary changes. Okay, so we have the example, modelo. Los hermanos son simpáticos. And we have ella in parentheses. And so the new sentence is ella es simpática también. And so you can see here, we had to change simpáticos to simpática. And we have the word también also. Muy bien. Número 1. Nosotros somos americanos. And you have the word ellas. Change the sentence. Ellas son americanas también. Número 2. El señor Méndez es republicano. La señora Méndez. So change the subject and make any other necessary changes. La señora Méndez es republicana también. Número 3. Pedrito es gracioso. And we have in parentheses Juan y Carlos. Juan y Carlos son graciosos también. Número 4. Los profesores son inteligentes. And you have in parentheses la profesora. La profesora es inteligente también. Número 5. Rubén es guapo. Yo soy guapo or guapa if you're a girl. También. Número 6. Mi amigo es rico. ¿Nosotros? Nosotros somos ricos también. Número 7. El profesor Sánchez es cristiano. ¿Tú? Tú eres cristiano también. Número 8. El pastor Suárez es joven. ¿Ustedes? Ustedes son jóvenes también. Número 9. Ellos son amables. ¿Ella? Ella es amable también. Y número 10. Mi vecino es honesto. ¿Nosotras? Nosotras somos honestas también. Buen trabajo. Now, we've been talking about ser, but when do we use estar? Let's contrast some of the differences between the two. Ser versus estar. Ser plus adjective describes a basic trait or inherent characteristic. Estar plus adjective describes a temporary state or condition. For example, Susana es bonita or Susana está bonita. The first sentence is just saying that she is pretty. The second one, she looks pretty. Ser plus de expresses origin. And estar plus a preposition expresses location. For example, Susana es de Venezuela. Susana está en Venezuela. Now, we are going to do a short listening activity that highlights the differences between ser and estar. So, open your activities manual to page 6 and listen to the instructions carefully and complete the activity as you listen. Here we go.
Parte 5. Ser versus estar.
Say permanente if the sentence you hear describes a basic trait or a permanent characteristic. Say temporal if the sentence describes a temporary condition. You hear,
El libro es grande.
You say permanente because es grande describes a permanent characteristic of el libro. You hear the confirmation.
Permanente.
You hear,
Ana está triste.
You say temporal because está triste is a temporary condition of Ana. You hear the confirmation.
Temporal. Número 1. Los estudiantes están nerviosos esta mañana. Temporal. Número 2. La profesora es paciente con su clase. Permanente. Número 3. Paco es un chico maleducado. Permanente. Número 4. Los padres de Ramón están enfermos. Temporal. Número 5. Margarita y su hermana son fieles. Permanente. Número 6. El carro está sucio. Temporal. Número 7. La casa es amarilla. Permanente. Número 8. El gato está frío. Temporal. Número 9. Las niñas son rubias. Permanente.
Now let's practice a little bit more by working on Actividad 7 on page 22 of our textbook. And you'll have to decide between ser and estar. Here are the instructions. Provide the correct form of ser or estar. Número 1. Mariano blank de Caracas. What would you choose? Ser or estar? And then you have to conjugate it with the subject. Look at the preposition. Mariano es de Caracas. Número 2. Los estudiantes blank en la clase de español. So decide, ser or estar. And then conjugate it with the subject. I hope you chose estar. And we have, los estudiantes están en la clase de español. Número 3, el reloj blank de oro. El reloj es de oro. Número 4, el libro de historia blank en el portafolio del profesor. And está. El libro de historia está en el portafolio del profesor. It's talking about the location. Muy bien. Los ojos de María, blank, azules. Los ojos de María son azules. Describing here an inherent characteristic. Número 6. Paco y Tomás, blank, mexicanos. And I hope you chose ser. Paco y Tomás son mexicanos. Número 7. La madre de Rosita, profesora. Profesora would be a profession, so it should be es. La madre de Rosita es profesora. Número 8. Rosita, blank, enferma. And Rosita está enferma is just a condition, something temporary. Número 9. Ella, blank, en el hospital. Ella está en el hospital. That's her location. Y número 10. El padre de Rosita, blank, médico. And that is his profession, so we should have chosen ser. El padre de Rosita es médico. Muy bien, buen trabajo. Now make sure you complete your assignment before our next lesson. Hasta la próxima.